And this was long before he decided to go to school. He was still in high school. And Bryce was talking about his dreams and his goals. And he said, things really changed for me when I started to see my mother do things for herself.
Wow.
She was my soccer mom. She was the homeroom teacher. She was this, she was that. He said, but things started to change for me when I started to see her do things for herself. Y'all, that hit hard.
So I know that you are one of those people who would love to know how to thrive in your career and pursue your passion at the same time. So I have someone who is here with me today who is going to help you navigate living in both of those worlds and do it with absolute perfection. I'm so excited to talk to a good friend of mine today. So hello, everyone. I am Jini Thornton and welcoming you to another episode of the Thank Me Later podcast with me, of course, your host, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. And the transformation that we're going to work on today is what I call having it all. And you can absolutely have it all. And I'm so excited to have my friend and colleague, Coriya Burns, with me today. Hello, Coriya.
Hi, Jini. Thank you for having me. At first, I was like, is she talking about me? Or is someone else going to show up?
Well, you know I'm talking about you. And it's so funny to talk with you because, you know, when I think about the beginning of my career, like you are one of the few people who literally understand the beginning of my career.
Yes, I remember Money Talks. I remember Money Talks.
Yes. And that is literally my connection to the entertainment industry. So we're going to talk about all that in a minute. Okay. But first, I want to make sure people understand who you are. So we were talking before we started today that you actually started with the company Radio 1. So in Atlanta, we're talking about Praise 102.5, Hot 107.9, Classic 102.9, Magic 97.5, 107.5. You're the general sales manager for all of those stations, but you started with them way back in 1995 as what, a sales assistant?
Actually, I started as a temp. I came in through a temp agency.
What?
Thinking I was just going to work this job so I wouldn't have to eat ramen noodles while I was in college. I had no idea 29 years later I would still be there. 29
years later. So you have been a temp. You have been
sales assistant, account manager, entertainment account manager, and now general sales manager.
How many people do you know in our age group have been with the same company for this long?
Oh my goodness.
Like I can't name like 5 people, I don't think, to be with the same company.
My work husband, Clancy, that's probably it. That's probably it.
Shout out to Clancy Murray, your work husband, who started right after you, right at the station.
Yes.
That is crazy. So you all got there in 95. I started with the station in April of 96. And for people who just don't understand, because people who may not be listening to radio a lot, radio controlled the music industry.
Absolutely.
Back in the day. Because this is the only place that you could hear the music that you wanted to hear.
That's right.
So you think about that. You think about Atlanta. You think about what was happening in Atlanta. Think about LaFace Records.
Oh, God.
Think about how magical Atlanta was. Here comes this brand new station, Hot 97.5.
Hot 97.5, yep.
And they show up playing hip hop music in the South.
That's right.
Black owned, no less.
Black owned in a city that you would think would already be thriving. Well, it really was thriving in hip hop, but people were not giving it the exposure that it deserved at the time. I say this all the time, and people can debate me if they want. We forced V103 to play hip hop the way that they played it.
Absolutely.
They had a spot for it, but listen to them now.
Right.
You know, it's all day parts. It's all day long for the most part. They weren't doing that when we came along.
So here comes Hot, kicking down the door, not knocking down the door, kicking down the door. And now you got 24 hours a day of hip hop.
Wow.
In the late 90s.
Absolutely.
So just talking about a completely magical time.
That's right. The Goody Mobs of the world, the Outcasts. I mean, who's that peeping through my window just rings in my head. Every time I think about starting and how we used to blast the music in the hallway, people just like, is this a real office? Like, is this a business?
Right.
It was.
It was. This business happened to be on Old National Highway, which is really in an office park above a dentist's office.
That's right.
And you could go there at night and the parking lot would be full of people.
Yeah. And during the day, you could hear him taking his broom and hitting the ceiling, telling us, Dr. Amu, to tell us to be quiet. It was quite the place to work, day and night.
And I just remember seeing Chaka Zulu, and he was Chris Love at the time. He wasn't Ludacris yet.
Yep.
Just hanging out the window. Everybody was having. It was a magical place.
It was absolutely a magical place, and I don't think we knew at the time. What we would mean to the city. We had no idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And who would come through there too.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Who would come through there? Absolutely.
So before we're supposed to be talking about all this other stuff, but I have to ask you, I need to know one of your favorite birthday bash moments, because you have not lived unless you've been to birthday bash.
Right.
I had to stop going because
I've been to every single one.
Girl.
I've been to every single birthday bash.
Oh my gosh.
All 27. I think there's been 27 because we skipped one.
Right.
My favorite birthday bash moment, no doubt, hands down. And I have several, but my favorite is the year that Chris headlined.
Really?
We were all standing on the side of the stage like, there is no more work to be done. We're not doing anything else. We're not moving until Ludacris say move.
Right.
We are not leaving
Right.
the side of the stage. And only after we had to kick Kanye off the stage. But
Right.
that's another situation.
I'm happy you whispered that part. Yeah.
But all of us were like so excited for him because Chris literally went from being my talent for a remote at a car dealer one Saturday to me meeting him and Kevin Lyles Monday morning at the Ritz-Carlton, and he being my client.
Just like that.
In less than 48 hours.
Isn't that something?
Something else.
And I just remember, Chris, when I started, I'm going to use working it with air quotes. When I started volunteering, working with the radio station, May Catherine, after I started my Money Talk show, she asked me to start doing these workshops for the staff. Yeah. And Chris just was always this very focused, ambitious young man who was always on the front row. He just always had all the questions, raising his hands. What about this? Wanting to understand everything about accounting and taxes. He was just different. He was just different. And then he said to me, oh, when I become a rapper, I'd like for you to be my accountant. And I was like, oh, this young man has goals. He is so ambitious. And then I'll never forget the time David and I, we were taking our kids to Disney World. And we get to Florida and he's on the radio in Florida. And I was like, oh my God. And I called him. I was like, I knew you were on the radio in Atlanta, but I'm in Florida right now. Wow. I don't understand why you're on the radio here. And he was like, Jini, I've been telling you, like, this is real. And boom, that was in 2000. Here we go from there. Yeah. So let me tell you my favorite radio station moment. So we've been kind of fanning out about Outkast here today. So I was in the station the day that Outkast brought ATLians to the station to get played. Whew. Chaka Zulu just kept playing it over and over. So it wasn't on the air yet.
Right.
So they were just bringing it through because back then that's what you had to do.
What you did.
Yeah, you had to, someone had to kind of kiss the ring. You went through the process. I was in the station the night that ATLians was brought to the station.
That's a moment.
I will never, ever, ever forget that.
That is a moment.
Okay, so I could talk to you about Radio 1 all day long. We're not going to do that.
Okay. Because I have life outside of Radio 1.
You definitely do. But, as I kicked us off in the introduction, one thing that I have really marveled at you about is beyond being in the industry forever, not only being at the same station the whole time, I have seen you begin to build not just a passion, not just a hobby, that you have very intentionally built a business life outside of the station while still simultaneously growing within the ranks. And Coriya, I know you talk to women all the time. I always talk to women who I feel like they don't think that they can have it all.
Oh, goodness.
It's one thing or the other.
Right.
Or if they are pursuing something, it's like this little dirty, nasty secret, and they're kind of tiptoeing around and they don't want their employer to know. And it's the secret. So I have just marveled as you have been bold on all sides of your career, within the corporate sector, but also, again, building your company, your brand, your travel business outside. Can you kind of talk about your journey of how it came from just loving travel, I'm assuming, to like, ooh, I can do this. I can make money at this.
Absolutely. I mean, I just feel like if there's something that you truly love and you got to spend money on it, then let's try to figure out how to capitalize on it. And how can I work for this company started by a Black woman from the ground up and not do something for myself? Now, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. Working for Radio One, the story behind Kathy Hughes is amazing. But it hasn't just caused me to just work hard for Radio One. It's caused me to want to do something for myself, to say, hey, that's mine. It is what I do. And I used to always say, just like you said, people tiptoe around what they're doing. Why?
Right.
This is making me better.
Right.
This is making me better for you. It's making me better when I can show up and I'm excited, because Radio One is not always exciting like a lot of people would think. And I was going to travel anyway. I was going to do it anyway. So and I won't even say, I know you said intentionally, I really kind of stumbled into it. I really did.
Talk about that.
So last year, I think in September, I'd been to Ghana at that point 9 times. I was a one destination girl. I went to a destination one time and then that was it. Let me go check something else off the list. Very blessed to have been to over 20 countries. And then I got to Ghana and I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I feel so emotional. I got to come back. And I'm home. I feel like I can really be a Black person. Like seriously, all these things went through my mind. And I went live and my uncle said, don't you leave the States again without taking me. And I said, well, I'm going back for my birthday in September. You want to go? He was like, I do. What are the dates? So a good friend of mine, she's part of the Ghana Tourism Authority. I said, hey, can you put together a trip for maybe 4 people?
Right.
I said, not many people are going to go to Africa, right? And she said, fine. And 4 turned into 8, turned into 10, turned into 12. And then I said, no more. Y'all, I don't know what just happened. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. And then people were literally begging me, can my cousin go? Can my friend go? And before I knew it, 17 people followed me to Ghana in September of 2023. And I was like, what just happened?
Right.
And my girlfriend said, girl, you got to do this again. Like, it was so life-changing for people. Clancy, oh my goodness. It was so life-changing. And she said, we can do this. And then we did it again. And then we did it again. And then tomorrow I leave to do it again. And I really stumbled onto something that I feel like is not just a passion, but it is really something that I feel like I have to do. I have to do it.
And there's like 1,000 things that I want to talk to you about. There's the business side of this, but also I'm thinking a lot about our fear of traveling to Africa. Yes. And, a lot of Black people are afraid to travel to
Absolutely.
Africa. And so, and I'm just coming off the heels of returning from Rwanda. Yeah. And everyone is like, are you sure you need to go? Is it safe?
Oh,
what about this? Everyone's just afraid. I'm just like, okay, everybody, let's kind of exhale. It's safer than being in America. You don't want me to say that out loud, but it is true. So how have you found, and I don't know if confidence is the right word, to be able to openly talk about it? Because again, I've seen so many amazing entrepreneurs who are in secret, don't want their employers to know. Is it the atmosphere of Radio One? Is it your approach? Because I want people to be empowered and not have to, you only hide things that are bad. And that's what my mother already told me. We're not going to be tiptoeing around things. Right. So someone who is struggling with that, what advice do you have?
I think it's exhausting to have to be one thing at home and another thing at work.
Amen. Yes.
I mean, and very grateful that people will say, you're the same. You're the same that you were here. You're the same when you're here. And I knew that I couldn't hide it because I was always talking about it. And the more that I talked about it, I knew that it was becoming part of who I was. And I just decided that either you're going to accept who I am inside the building and outside the building, or there's going to be something else for me. And that's not being arrogant at all. It's just making sure that I reclaim what I know is already mine, and that's the freedom to be who I am wherever I am.
Absolutely. I love that. So someone who is dealing with, they have the career, maybe have excelled like you, doing well, but they're curious. Something else has caught their interest. And they're just like, but it's kind of like jump rope. You're not sure if you should jump in or not. You're just kind of straddling the fence. What advice do you have to anyone who's just kind of struggling with that right now?
So I'm going to say something, and it probably is not going to feel very good. You don't let your dreams be buried with you. And too many women I see do that. They allow their dreams to be covered up by the things that they're doing for everybody else.
Right.
I see way too many women revel, or there's a badge of honor for being busy all the time. I don't want to be busy all the time.
Right.
Or there's a badge of honor with you being everybody's emergency contact. Or there's a badge of honor with everybody calls me and everybody depends on me. Girlfriend, that is not a badge of honor. It's time to start delegating some things, or your dreams are going to get buried with you. So I know that I say that, and sometimes people say, oh, you're trying to scare people into doing it. Well, if I do, fine. And if it works, even better. But you have to be determined that you're going to have something for yourself. And I'll tell this very quick story. I do Faith Board experience.
Right.
And the year that I had to do that virtually, I had my son come on. And this was long before he decided to go to school. He was still in high school. And Bryce was talking about his dreams and his goals. And he said, things really changed for me when I started to see my mother do things for herself.
Wow.
She was my soccer mom. She was the homeroom teacher. She was this, she was that. He said, but things started to change for me when I started to see her do things for herself. Y'all, that hit hard. What if I never woke up and I never did that? What if I was always just, let me taxi you here, let me do this, let me show up for school.
Head down.
Let me be.
Head down. Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened to his dreams and his goals, because mentally I thought, I'm doing all that I can for my son. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. I'm being a sister, a mother, an aunt, a coworker, a friend. And I did nothing for myself. And he said that. He said, things changed when I started to see her do things for herself.
And now that you mentioned Bryce, will you just talk about where your son is? Now he's been out of high school, this is his third year out of high school?
Third year out of high school.
And he's in college where?
He's in college in Rome, Italy.
And he ended up in Rome because I guess he wanted to dream bigger. When he told me, he said, Mom, I know I've got these full rides, LSU, Tennessee State. He had and academically, but he's been playing soccer since he was 3. Loves the game. He said, I think I want to go to school in Rome. I said, what's in Rome, Georgia? Right. He said, Rome, Georgia.
What schools are in Rome, Georgia? Like, I was starting to really think, right. I don't even recall. And I was serious.
Right.
And he was like, no, Rome, Italy. Boy, if you don't stop, like, what are you talking about?
Right.
He was like, well, it's your fault. And I was like, what are you talking about? No. Where'd you even get this? He says, well, actually, they've been emailing me for over a year now, since my sophomore, junior year in college.
In high school.
In high school, right. In high school. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I still didn't think. I mean, Clancy will tell you, we showed up to the LSU date with him and his daughter, because I was like, he going to LSU.
Right. Right.
And before I knew it, he filled out the paperwork on his own. And he was like, we got to Zoom with these people. What time is good for you? And I'm thinking to myself, he can't be serious. Well, 3 years later, and he just left Sunday night heading back for technically his second year, because their degree programs are 3 years. He did a gap year the first year, and yeah.
So gap year, first year, he ends up going to Rome.
Yeah.
So did you go with him?
So first year I went 3 times.
Okay.
I showed up 3 times in Rome.
Okay. Like,
I was like, wait a minute. I think it still had not hit me. And I wrote it off of, I like to travel anyway. Really, I was trying to see what was going on. But yeah, the first year I went 3 times. This last year I went once. And this year I wanted to go with him when he left. And he said, no, Mom, wait until I get my soccer schedule and come so you can see me play.
right.
I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
In Rome, which is a direct flight away when you live in Atlanta.
It sure is. It's a direct flight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I cannot believe that.
I still can't. I mean, it's hard sometimes for me to wrap my head around it.
And so I know you told me that he's in school in Rome, 0 student loan debt.
0 student loan debt. Now, we done went through the 529 and some other stuff.
Right.
At this point, because it is absolutely different, but very blessed to no student loans at this point. And to be honest, it's very hard to find scholarships for kids who study abroad. I've already made up in my mind that when Bryce graduates, Bryce and I are going to start a scholarship fund for boys, our boys who would like to study abroad. So many companies gave us money and took it back when they found out the school was not in the United States. Unbelievable.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I've never even heard of that before.
Unbelievable.
And what I'm really thinking about just as a parent, how we can kind of put our kids in a box. Yes. We just kind of have this expectation of what makes sense to us and what would make us feel comfortable versus saying, hey, there's a whole big world out there.
Absolutely.
If you have an opportunity, let's certainly pursue those opportunities and to empower our children to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we think that our box, I have to be honest, I had traveled prior to going anywhere in Europe, but it was Bryce.
Right.
That really, he came home, hey, we've been studying the Paris Treaty. We should just go to Paris.
Right.
His dad is sound like, boy, you don't know nothing about Paris. I'll never forget it.
And it sounded like something we would say.
And it just like that, right? You don't know nothing about it. And so after Bryce left the table, I said, well, you know what? Let's just test him over the summer. One less trip to the hair salon. We do press-ons instead of acrylics. Let's try to figure it out. And I mean every bit of that, because we can figure it out. And I saved and I asked him some more about what he thought. And he said, I just think it would be good for me to go and just see this in person. He was standing on that.
Right.
And that summer when he was 9 years old, we went to Paris. Out Jamaica, Bahamas, Cancun. Come on, y'all know how we
say places. No, we'll go to the Caribbean in a minute now.
Right.
Say it.
And we went to Paris, and it was just incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
So not only did it change his life, Bryce's life, but it changed your life too.
Absolutely. Open up. And I thought I was well traveled at the time, but it did. It opened my eyes to so many other different things.
Wow. I love that. I think I can relate to you a lot. And you don't know this about me. My mother, this is back, my mother passed away in 2000. So like in the early mid 90s, my mother had probably taken about 30 trips to West Africa. Wow. And she had just taken group after group. After group, after group. And so that, hearing your story just immediately made me think about her. She just had a unique opportunity to go. And then I think same thing. She just felt compelled after that. She had to go.
Wow.
And she had to lead people there. So, and I just know what that meant for her, how it changed her.
Sure.
And how it changed even the people in her circle who didn't go. It just began to change their perspective on travel, on international travel, on, again, of being afraid to travel to Africa in particular. So, all the things that come with that. So when I think of you, I often think of her because I know what that meant for her, what that chapter in her life really meant for her.
Yes.
So keep growing, girl.
Thank you.
Keep leading folks over there. So I have a quick hotline question that someone submitted.
Okay.
Knowing that you were going to be here today. This is Mary from Florida. And Mary says, what advice do you have for someone who has never taken a solo trip but is interested?
So the first thing is figure out what you like. Decide what you like. If it's beach and it's sun, decide that. Right. If it's cold weather, whatever it is. And then research places that are great for, I'm going to say Black solo women travelers, because it's not the same. There are absolutely some spaces that I've been in that I would have chosen something different for myself as a solo traveler. So I would definitely research that. And then I would take a look at some of the Instagram pages for solo. There are a lot of women out here who've been solo traveling a lot longer than myself.
Right.
The Passport Abuser, she is a phenomenal young lady to follow. Another young lady is Mom on the Move, and she talks to mothers who want to travel. But follow these young ladies and get some of the tips and stuff from them. Because for me, I'm mainly focused on group travel, and now I'm focused on group travel. And the other things that I'll do, because I'll pack a bag and I'll go.
Right.
I know that. But like I said, there are some places that I've been that I would probably not suggest, especially as a first-time trip.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk a couple things about Africa, just real fast. So when people are afraid to go onto the continent, I don't care where they're going, South Africa, Ghana, wherever they're going.
Right.
Can you help kind of dispel some of these myths
Sure.
that we have?
Are you afraid at your family reunion?
Girl,
listen, because it's really not much different.
Right.
You are going to get off the plane. At least I can, definitely speak to Ghana, and they're going to say Akwaba. A million times you're going to hear Akwaba, but you're going to hear it with such a genuine nature that you're going to wonder, like, do these people know me really? Like, for real, do they know me? And it's going to be, it may be a little shocking for people at first because they're so welcoming. They are genuinely happy to see you. I think the misconception is they think that everybody wants something from them.
Right.
And that is absolutely not the case. Sometimes your knowledge, I think I've had more people want to sit down and talk to me just in general than anything else. So the first thing is you feel so welcome and it is safe. You talked about Rwanda. I walk around in Ghana by myself at night. Now I'm cautious. Don't get me wrong, but y'all, I'm not walking around in Douglasville by myself at night.
Right.
And that's just the truth of the matter.
Amen. Right.
I feel extremely safe. And forget about what you've seen on CNN and MSNBC.
Thank you.
Forget about it. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely not it.
So, this whole notion of certain places where single black women shouldn't go.
Okay. Oh boy.
I'm just like, I kind of want to lead into that a little bit.
Okay.
Can we kind of talk about that a little bit?
We can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, there are some places, and y'all can narrow it down. I've been to France. I've, of course, been to Italy. I've been to England. And there's some places that are just cold to me.
Right.
And when I say cold, I'm not talking about, temperature-wise, but that people were just cold.
Mean. Yes.
And it's fine to go and see these, the Eiffel Tower and all these other places. But I probably, would not go by myself as a single female. And I'm sure there have been women who have gone before. I'm saying me.
For you.
I don't think for me that I would have enjoyed it as much as a single black woman. Now, Barcelona, Spain, they loved me.
Okay.
And I had a great time. I actually got lost in a 6-mile radius one day and had the time of my life and met probably people who would invite me back to their house right now. I cannot say that for everywhere else that I've been. It's just been different. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely been different.
And I appreciate you saying that. And I do think it just means that we as U.S. travelers, just to really be open.
Right.
And we have been kind of indoctrinated to be okay to go to certain places,
yes,
like the Caribbean.
Yes.
Like we know that that's safe because people we know that have been there. Mm-hmm. Just because we don't know that many people who have probably been to Ghana.
Right.
Or South Africa or Rwanda or wherever. But be okay with going to the continent.
Yes.
I think they've done a good job. The propaganda has done a really good job of making us afraid to go to Africa. For disease and famine and all. And I'm just like,
right.
Please stop doing that. That is not what the whole continent looks like.
The Year of Return did a great job of, trying to get as many people back to the continent as possible. And that was in 2019, where I hate to call it a celebration, but it was, 400 years since the last slave landed in the United States. So they did this campaign that was supposed to be 1 year, and it was called the Year of Return. And they had almost 1 million of us that came back to the continent that year to, I would say, not to celebrate, to recognize that.
Right.
And it was so successful that they decided to turn it into a 10-year campaign called Beyond the Return. And that's when I first got a chance to go to Ghana. I went in the Beyond the Return when it first started. But imagine doing something one time and it being so successful, people latching onto it so much that they say, now we're not going to do this for another year, another 2 years, another 5, but 10 years. We're in the midst of a 10-year campaign to bring as many diasporans back to the continent as possible. And that's where I come in.
And so tell us, for people who want more information about your company, Go Travel Chick, correct? So if they want to be able to travel with you, engage with you, learn, how do they get in touch with you?
So they can follow me on social media, but before you do that, go to YouTube and search Odana Network, just like it sounds, Odana, and you will see my picture there, Epic Journey. Me and 17 of my friends. It now has over 327,000 views.
Girl.
I'm getting emails probably every day. I'm really at the point now, I may need to hire an assistant because every day people are like, I want to go with you. Wow. And I'm like, you don't know me. So right. Evidently it is a selling, tool, a selling mechanism. I had a nurse that went with me in February. She'd only watched this video.
Get out of here.
I am not kidding. And I'm like, Lord, these people trust me. She said, everything about you comes through the screen. And I just trust you like that. And she
signed up and went. I love that.
Unbelievable. But you can follow me on social media at Go Travel Chick. Just like it sounds, Go Travel, CHICK. And anything that you need to know, I have as many articles as you need. I have as many videos as you need. I think after 12 trips, getting ready to leave for my 13th journey, I think I know a little bit I can answer. So many questions.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And then also, I know that anytime we have an opportunity to travel, it's meaningful. But there's something to be said about going to the continent of Africa where your life will never be the same
Absolutely.
again. So for people, I implore, I strongly suggest that you do that because that is where we're from.
Absolutely.
And we don't have that connection. You know what I mean? We've lost that connection.
Right.
But to be able to lean in, it is absolutely life-changing.
Yeah. Africa, let me tell you, the Caribbean is beautiful.
For sure.
Europe is so cool. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing like the motherland. Nothing. And nothing can touch it.
I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So I want to know about your next trip too. I'm going to have to check out I've never been to Ghana.
So the next 1, 2, 3, 4
okay.
are already planned.
Shut up, girl.
2025.
I love that.
I'm taking a high school group next May. So I have this group for September. I actually have 2 groups back to back. One group that's going for the first time that will overlap with a group who's already been with me who are coming back for the second time.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I have a group going in December of this year, 2024. That is their Dirty December, as they call it. That's their kind of Mardi Gras, their celebration time.
Love that.
Then I'll do a high school trip of 30 in May.
What?
They leave the day that school gets out. We are looking for sponsors for the kids. But they do. They leave. They literally will have on their shirts that are going to be designed by kids in Ghana, and they're going to design shirts for the kids in Ghana.
Right.
So we'll start Zooming in a couple months. So Abana will know Marcus, and Kofi will know Ajawa.
What high school?
Well, many of the kids are from Westlake.
Okay. Oh,
but
I love that.
Yep. But we'll have kids from different places as well. So we'll leave the day school gets out. So they get out of school, they leave that night.
Wow.
For 11 days, headed to Ghana. And then I have September of 2025 that is more than halfway already full. Unbelievable. When I say I stumbled into this.
Girl.
Yes.
I love everything about it. So last thing before we wrap up.
Sure.
For people who are like, how do I manage taking off 11 days?
Ooh.
People, that stresses a lot of people out.
It does.
So for people who have never, because you need some time, because it's like a day there and a day back. Now we got to spend some time on the continent. How do people manage that whole PTO and
I'm glad you
all
asked.
Of that?
Because baby, I know how to turn 13 days of PTO into 40.
Tell people how to do it.
For the normal trips, it's not 11 days. So the kids are going for 11 because I'm also taking them to some different parts of Ghana. We're going to take a second flight when they get there, and we're doing some things with the school there. But the normal journeys are 7 days and 6 nights. And I always try to work a holiday in there. So like for this one, we'll leave, but we'll land on a Saturday, and then Monday will be a holiday. So right there, you've already got 3 free days, so to speak. So you're taking off really Tuesday through Friday, and you're coming back the following weekend. I got it worked out, trust me.
Okay.
So you're not taking, the max that you'll probably be taking off is a week, but I've really figured it out how you can take off 4 days.
Isn't that something?
Absolutely.
And that sounds like an amazing strategy. I need you to start. I need you to start teaching classes on how to manage that PTO. I need you to do that. So again, tell people again how to follow you, whether they're following you personally or following your travel brand.
Yes. So my personal on all platforms is just Coriya, JustCoriya. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Thread, all of it. TikTok, and then you can also follow me at Go Travel Chick on Instagram.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So before we go, I want you just to answer, as we close, answer this question. So finish this sentence. If you blank, you will thank me later. If you blank.
Okay. If you cut out all of the unnecessary things and when I say things, I mean things, time, people, right? And focus for 6 months, you will thank me later.
Girl, I think you just said a word right there.
6 months.
You just said a word right there. Well, thank you, Coriya.
Yes,
I'm just honored to know you, to have known you so long.
I know.
And just to been on this amazing journey and just to see this new chapter of your life. And your son is in Rome in school. Whose child is in Rome in school? You know, I just can't believe that. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Thank Me Later show. Of course, you can follow me on social media at Jini Thornton, at TML Money. And you can learn more about us at the Thank Me Later show. Thank you again for tuning into the Thank Me Later show, where we help you master your money and transform your life. We'll see you next episode.